Happy Wednesday, folks. How are y'all doing on this beautiful day? Man, how are you feeling? Where are you watching from? What are you doing today? What has your week been like? What has your weekend been like? It's been a busy one for me. Oh my goodness. It's so glad to have you here today. We're going to have a pretty interesting conversation today. Let me see if I have any announcements, anything that I need to call out or speak to. I don't think so. I think everything's going pretty good right now. Like we have our new members house party for Bridge City tonight. So I'm extremely excited about that because I had to miss the last one, of course, because I have two kids who are graduating from high school right now and headed into college. And so that's putting a lot on the plate, man. It's putting a lot on the plate, but we're really excited about it. We're really excited about it. Of course, as you're coming in, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. And of course, make sure you hit that notification bell so you get alerted. I see someone ask, how is Christianity dangerous? Do you mind sharing? Sure, just watch through any of my videos. That's kind of what this channel is about. But also, that is the topic of today's conversation. So we'll be talking about a little of it. But if you're not sure, just to kind of give you an example, genocide, slavery, misogyny, patriarchy, all of these things kind of, they've been kind of neatly packaged up in Christianity. Sorry to give you that memo, but no. So glad to have you out here today. Okay, so let's talk. Let's jump into this. Today's topic is Christianity is dangerous. So what are you going to do about it? And this conversation is, let me see here. God warns us. Oh, I get it. You're a Christian. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna put you in timeout for a moment. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this. Christianity is dangerous. So what are you going to do about it? Christianity is dangerous. Now, the next stage of atheist or secular work cannot only be deconstruction. And I'm sure you've heard me talking about this I've been talking about this since last year. Like I try to squeeze it into as much of my content as I can, because deconstruction is like the doorway. It's walking out of one cave of many, right? If you're familiar, I was about to say the cave of shadows. That's Aladdin. But if you're familiar with the allegory of the cave, like deconstructing is like coming out of, it's just coming out of one cave. You still got a whole bunch of more caves that you got to come out of. But even that's just a journey. It's the door out. The next phase has to be, why am I deconstructing, right? Okay, why? Like, why am I actually deconstructing? Why am I, for most, not for all, not for all. I don't even want to say for most, but for many, the purpose of deconstruction, or the invocation of deconstruction, was often the realization of harm. Like for me, that was a major point for me. And I've kind of talked about this before, that for me, it wasn't just that Christianity was untrue. That, like, as a preacher of the gospel, I had learned how to harmonize inconsistencies. I'd learned how, like, I mean, our job as preachers is to be ministers of reconciliation. So, like, a major part of my hermeneutic responsibility was finding a way to reconcile things. And so I'd gotten used to Christianity being wrong, but I could always hide that behind, well, it's not, the original was probably right and we just got it messed up somewhere. It wasn't until actually having to sit with the harm is not just accidental. The harm is consequential. That was like, oh man. Because of course I worked in enough churches, I spent enough time in various different denominations, in various different ministries, in various different cultures, and yet saw a lot of the same type of harm repeated, even though it's different language, even though it's different theology. And after a while, you realize, no, this isn't incidental. This is consequential. Kind of like in the video that I did yesterday, talking about mega churches, and one of the secrets I released was that mega church pastors are narcissistic. But let me explain. My goal wasn't to diagnose megachurch pastors with a disorder. It's to show that they're a part of a climate. They are a part of a culture that reveres a narcissistic being. Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call them, God monster, whatever you choose. But if you're a part of a culture, if you're part of a climate that reveres a being that has narcissistic tendencies, you're eventually going to create an environment where that is the expectation of your leaders. Like, we might as well start calling godly shorthand for narcissistic. If someone is godly, oh, you must be a narcissist. That's where my mind goes. But anyway, it was realizing that the harm, what's going on, y'all? It's the it's the realization that the harm is consequential, right? As a sociologist, I'm looking at the harms caused to families. I'm watching people, threaten to kick out their kids for their sexual identity or stuff like that, or threaten to disown their kids. I'm watching people change what they consider acceptable and tolerable in treatment of others that they genuinely care about, as a consequence of believing that this particular religion is God's truth. So, for a lot of us, the instigation for deconstruction was not just recognizing that it's not true, but it's also recognized, hey, that this causes harm. This perpetuates harm. Another way that I saw the harm and we'll deep dive into this a little bit more, but I'm just kind of in the introduction right now. But another way that I saw it harming was my church. I was more of the motivational speaker type of pastor, like, because like I'd already been through the disappointments of coming to terms with, like, God, because I was a Pentecostal. And so I'd wrestle with stuff like, oh, God seems to only heal stuff that can't really be verified. Like, God heals headaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, headaches. There's someone in the building in a wheelchair missing a leg, an entire leg, and God shows up with all of this power and heals a headache. It's just like, you experience that enough. After a while, you do kind of develop a separation from that. But again, it can hide behind, well, we're just doing it wrong. That's us just misunderstanding it. And after a while, you just push the excuses back. But what I started to notice was just also that by the time I shifted, even while being the more grounded, the more progressive, the more street-minded pastor, the pastor who wore jeans, the pastor who says, we're not the church to beat you up, we're the church to lift you up, all of that good stuff. Even in all of that, I still realized, like, hey, I can flatten the gospel as much as I can into a beautifully poetic story of struggle and liberation. I can do all of those things, and then I can tie in all of these principles from psychology and all of these principles about mindset and all of these principles about participating in your own deliverance. I can do all of that. But if I'm still doing that in an environment that rewards and praises magical thinking, then it doesn't matter how many good principles I'm giving people, they're still going to gravitate towards the magical thing. And so it's just like this. If I have to work hard to make something happen, or if I can pray and make something happen, if praying actually does make something happen, then logically praying would be the smartest thing to do, because I'm getting greater outcome from less input. Mathematically, that's sound. And so as long as we present, magical thinking as a possibility, it creates harm for people. There are people who look at a bill, you know what I'm saying, that they really need to pay, and they think, you know what, maybe if I do something magical, I won't have to worry about that bill. You know what I'm saying? There are people who think, well, look, I applied for a few jobs, I didn't hear anything back. That must mean God doesn't want me to get a job, or that must mean that the devil's stopping me from doing this. All of those things, that's not just useless byproduct. Those are things that help to condition people to make harmful decisions toward themselves. And so for many people, the instigation of deconstruction isn't just I no longer believe this. It is also, I think I realize that this is harmful. All right, so I said all that to say, then if we do, Jesus be a bag of money. I love it. That if we do, all right, if we do recognize the harm in it, then the next goal can't just be harm exposure. It has to be harm reduction. Okay. Okay. Yeah. The next step can't just be, no, we need harm exposure. Absolutely. Let's expose the harm. I expose the harm. Let's expose the harm. Absolutely. But let's also play a role in reducing the harm. Let's also play a role in increasing well-being. And let's also play a role, which, this is the hill that I'm going to die on. This is my story and I'm sticking to it. Let's invest in community infrastructure. Okay. So, yes, Christianity is dangerous. I've said it, I've shown it, I do a lot of content on it, I've lived it. But at some point, if we're serious people, y'all, the question cannot only be how bad is Christianity? The question has to become, what are we going to build, model, protect, organize, and heal in response? Because last night, I did a conversation with Bob Swanson. He's an instructor at MSU, and he's our director of children and families at Bridge City. And so I did an interview with him last night because I'm fascinated by the work that he does. And I mean, Bob really does be outworking the work. But he mentioned to me that he went to attend a debate, and it was actually one that I had declined to participate in. But he attended a debate with Kent Hovind. Ken Hovind. I don't know the guy's name, but he attended a debate, and it's in Dino Land or something in Alabama. And it's like, and I was just being funny. I just imagine that the place is just really kind of dank and dusty. You know what I'm saying? He was like, it really was. It was dingy. But he said something that I forgot about. Like, I've been out of the game for so long that I really forgot that in certain cases this happens. And this is not something which actually I've mentioned this before, that a lot of times it's not the mega churches that are generating the most harm. They're just the easiest target, because they're shiny, and we like shiny things. We like sensationalism, right? So it's easy, but like a lot of times it's these like backheel nobodies that are doing just a lot of weird and crazy stuff. And so, like, he was just mentioning that, they got people that live there, that work for the thing, and they all have to come to the events that they're doing at the thing. And, they're living in in conditions that, I'm putting words in his mouth now, but, in my mind, sound like conditions that weren't that great. They didn't sound like they were that great. But yes, that's the thing. Like, that is a thing. And I need us to understand that I'd be willing to bet that a large percentage of those people who are living there are not living there because they bought into the belief. You know what I'm saying? People are fluid like that, by the way. People are fluid like that. They're living there because they're hungry. They're living there because they need a place to stay, you know? And that's a number one way that people get attached to Christianity, is that it serves the least, the lost, and the last, just with the condition that you bow down and worship my guy as king, you know? So it's a little, yeah. But those are the things like, okay, so and I'm not trying to suggest that atheists are not doing this. I'm saying we're not doing it enough. And nor am I saying that we should be doing the exact same things. I'm saying we should be doing healthier versions of those things, you know? Because outrage alone, it's just not strategy. If our response to religious harm only produces contempt, isolation, reactionary content, and relational breakdown, then we may be emotionally validating ourselves while failing to reduce harm or build anything better. You know, like if I'm currently in an ocean and I'm drowning, you just yelling from the beach, "Hey, you drowning. You need to get out of there." It's not helpful. It is not helpful. I already know I'm drowning. I need a way out, you know? I need help getting out. Uh-oh, y'all ain't ready for these conversations. I need help getting out. I want us to be, and I'm gonna get into this a little bit later, but I want us to be very careful about the way that we stigmatize people. I grew up during the crack epidemic. I did. My mother was on it, you know? And I watched how a substance abuse issue got stigmatized to the point where once you knew that someone struggled with this particular issue, you could dehumanize them to like at no end, you know, to no ends. It was something that society did. But then I watched a similar epidemic hit a community that I am not a part of, and I watched help show up. I watched clinics be opened, you know, and so I want us to think from that perspective. If we really believe that religion is dangerous, then I think we need to be creating more doors for them to get out. We need to be creating more exit rooms. Okay. So again, let me be very clear. I'm not here to soften my critique on Christianity. I'm not here to pretend that Christian theology has not harmed people. It absolutely has. I'm not here to tell people who have been wounded by the church to be quiet, to calm down, or to hurry up and forgive people who've never apologized. I'm not saying any of that. I have spent much of my work naming the harm. I've talked about fear-based theology. I've talked about hell trauma, purity culture, religious authoritarianism, anti-intellectualism, which was also like that was the big scary thing for me when I was deconverting. It was just like, oh, y'all stupid, pretending to be smart. That was terrifying for me. Because it's like I've been wasting my time believing stupid people, and I saw the signs. I saw the signs. I knew you was a D student. I knew it. I fucking knew it. But I was still trying to walk by faith and not by sight. I ain't doing that no more. you know. But no, I've talked about Christian nationalism, prosperity manipulation, misogyny, homophobia, racism, and the emotional abuse that often gets baptized as spiritual leadership. No, I've talked about it all, and I'll continue to talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. So it's not a let's all be nice to Christianity conversation. It's not, can't we all just get along? But I do want to ask a harder question. If Christianity is as dangerous as we believe it is, what are we going to do about it? And is what we're currently doing enough? Is it even effective? And how are we measuring effectiveness? And this is like, again, I'm pulling this also. This is the same way I talk to the black community when I'm having my black nationalist conversations. And I'm like, no, no. Is what we're doing working? Is it effective? And how are we measuring? I keep wanting to say majoring. And how are we measuring that effectiveness? What are the metrics we're trying to hit? What are the outcomes we're trying to hit? There are certain things that we do have control over. How are we going to monitor those things so we can determine some different outcomes? Mm, Sometimes you get so used to being the little guy. You get so used to being the small person. You get so used to being the minority that you begin to see yourself as weaker than because everybody else wants you to. And conversations like this force us to get ourselves out of that victim chair and say, no, if I'm here and I'm breathing, then there is a possibility that I am one of those people that has some capacity to do something about it. And I may not be able to do everything, but I can do my part. I can't do everybody's part, but I can do my part, you know? So, man, because at some point, just saying Christianity is bad over and over again may validate our pain, but it doesn't decrease the harm. It doesn't help people leaving religion rebuild their lives. It doesn't create community. It doesn't teach emotional regulation. It doesn't protect families. It doesn't help people think better, love better, organize better, or live better. And for some people, it's like when you leave, okay, let's talk about it. Because some of us, we went through this honeymoon phase. I even almost went through this honeymoon phase, but my wait, what a minute, be like kicking in real quick. But like when you become an atheist, and of course I was an atheist like over a decade ago. Um, and this is just me being honest, I didn't see anything in the atheist space that I wanted to attach myself to. I didn't see anything in the atheist space that made me say, ooh, I'm proud of being an atheist. And not saying that the atheist space owes me that. I'm saying that as a person who deconstructed while being a pastor and was trying to figure out what was next. And yeah, I looked at a lot of the stuff that was out there and it was just like, nah, that ain't for me, you know. But for some people, you go through this honeymoon phase where you become an atheist, you get involved, and like you immaturely, I'm gonna call it immaturity. You may not like that I'm gonna call it immaturity because you might still be in this phase, but it is immaturity. You go through this honeymoon phase where you're like, "Ooh, finally, I found my people." Right? Hey, come on, tell the truth. Tell the truth now. You're like, "I found my people. I found people." And it's like, "Oh, finally, people who don't believe in God." And then we make this false equivalence. This is the honeymoon phase. Honeymoon phase. We all do it. We make this false equivalence. These are my people. They don't believe in God. They must be good people now. you know? And it's like, no, no. I think one of the reasons why I don't necessarily fall there is because like I came up with this term, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to said it, but people are people. I don't care what label they attach themselves to. People are people. Some people are jackasses. Most people are biased. Most people can't see through their own biases, which is why I've been saying from the very beginning, like, hey, learning logical fallacies and learning about cognitive biases is not about trying to point out flaws in other people's arguments. It's trying to make you a better judger of reality. And so you recognize your biases, you recognize uh your biases. Like there's a popular bias that, sorry, I gotta say it like I said, that white people tend to have when they talk to me. And it's something I see in my comments a lot. And it's like, oh, when you're talking this, when you're doing these videos, you just sound different. But when you're doing the live videos, you're using that preacher voice. And I just like it when you use your normal voice. And I'm like, but you've never met me outside of YouTube. So which one is my normal voice? How do you know what my normal voice is? What if the difference between me doing my Monday through Friday videos and my Wednesday video and my live videos is that my Monday through Friday videos is me reading my script? So maybe what you're calling my reading voice is actually my normal voice. You know what I'm saying? You see, oh yeah, oh man, what's up, Kyle? You know, And it's like, no, we have those biases. I was having a conversation with someone on the campus, and it was just about some academic celebrity, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was about Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they were saying, something about Neil, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And normally, like, I'm one of these people. I just let people have their opinions because everybody has opinions. People are people. If you're ever really in a conversation with me, you'll notice I don't police other people a lot. Like, I don't do that. But the more they were talking, they had some really strong feelings about Neil deGrasse Tyson and his motivations for doing things. And so there's like, yeah, and so I can be like a dog with a bone sometimes. So they said one phrase and they just repeated it a few times. And so I said, I think that's where I'm gonna jump in at. And the phrase was like, he just had this knee-jerk reaction. And my mind was, whoa, you actually don't know this person. Like you literally don't. You don't see them in real life. So at that moment, you're actually, and I'm not saying this to pick on anybody. I'm saying this is something we do. I've talked about me doing this with Ti and Tanya all the time. It's like, no, you don't actually know this person. You've attached your bias to a narrative around them. And like that's not healthy. You're allowing yourself to pretend that you know something. You're allowing yourself to say, no, I know this dude well enough to know that reaction was a knee-jerk reaction. But that's the same way when people comment on my videos and they say, well, I know Darante well enough to know when he's using his normal voice and when he's using his preacher voice. And I'm like, how do you know it's my preacher voice and not my comedy voice? How do you know it's my preacher voice and not my acting voice? How do you know it's not my performing voice? How do you know if it's not my presentational voice? But see, all of those are based on our own biases, giving ourselves permission to know things that we don't actually know. And it's like, it's easy to do. So when you go through the honeymoon phase, you say, oh man, these people are atheists, so everybody must be good people, as if the only problem people have is the God problem. It's like, no, that's right. If we just fix this God problem, there's going to be no more jackasses. That's not how that works. And so we still need ways of not just no longer believing things that are not true, but we actually need, we don't just have a believing problem. We have a behavior problem. I think that's the best way to say that. Now, for people who might think that's preacher voice, that's me channeling Ian Van Zandt. You know, we have a behavior problem, beloved. You know, which I guess she got a preacher voice too. But honestly, I think all black people got preacher voices to white people. Oh man. Okay, that's just me being funny, but being truthful at the same time. All right. So my concern is that in some spaces we've become so infatuated with the harm that we've confused exposure with liberation. And I went through, and I've shared a little bit about this. Like I went through something similar with my Black nationalist activism. That at one point, and like I remember having to talk myself out of this space because I remember at one point I was so obsessed with the harm. I mean, I was like, I'm looking for, the news on another black person getting shot. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for the news of the people, going by the kids' birthday parties yelling out racist stuff. I'm looking for it. I at that moment I was infatuated with it. And then I asked myself, like, dude, how is what you're doing helping? And that's the question. Like, if your desire is to help, and one of the reasons I stopped being a Christian pastor was because I said I don't want to pretend to help. I want to actually help. And so when you want to actually help, you have to constantly sit in the question, how is this helping? Like if you're not asking that question and being honest, you're not trying to help. This is good, man. No. Okay. So all right. So I do have a poll question because I said I didn't want to monopolize everything today. And I've learned how to use these polls now, and I love them. I love them. Let me see here. I gotta find it. There it is. All right, so I'm going to share this first poll with you. Now, for those of you who don't hang out with us Sundays, you've probably not seen this poll, so this may be new to you. I don't like it there. Let me move it here. Yeah. So this may be your first time seeing the polls. So this may be new to you, but it's really easy to participate in. You see the question, you see the answers. Each answer has a number next to it. You see that? I don't know which side it's on, so I'm gonna do this. Each answer has a number beside it. To vote for a number, to vote for an answer, you just type the number. I feel like I complicated that. I made that a lot more complicated than that probably should have been. But here we are. All right, so here's the question. What do you think post-religious spaces need more of right now? What do you think post-religious spaces need more of right now? And there are no right or wrong answers. I'm not going to disagree with you on this. I might have some questions, but there are no right or wrong answers. Any of you can participate in the poll by typing a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4 in the chat. 1 is better arguments. Do you think what post-religious spaces need most right now is better arguments? Do you think it needs healthier community? Do you think it needs practical life support? Or do you think it needs organized social action? And sure, the answer can be all, but in this case, I want you to think about you personally. What do you think post-religious spaces need more of right now? What's something in the room, what's something on the list that you look at and you say, you know what? I really do wish we had more of this. This is something I think we need more of right now. And I am overwhelmed. All right, we got some answers in here. Come on now. Come on now. Let's get some. Yes. Yes. Let's get these answers in here. Let's get these answers in here. I love this. I love this. All right. So I want you to look at that now. Like, man, why is it not updating in real time for me? It does that sometime. I got to go switch to my other studio. That's what I'm going to do. Bam. Now I can see. Yes. All right. But no, I love this. We seem to be oscillating between 2 and 3. And I haven't paid anybody to answer any of these. I've not paid anybody for their answers. Okay. I've not persuaded anybody to answer. These are the answers of real people. And I did not predict, and nor would I really tried to, but I didn't predict that no one would choose better arguments. Because better arguments, like that's needed for the deconstruction phase, but the post-religious phase, and that's how I describe Bridge City as a community. Like, we're a post-religious community. We're not an anti-religious community. We're not purity checking for who's religious and who's not. We're post-religious. We're not against religion. We're over it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just over that, bruh. Like that is so 1996, but no, we're over it. But so if you notice, no one chose better arguments, and I'm actually surprised that no one chose organized social action. And that, I don't think that indicates that neither one of those are important. I think this reflects that right now the things that are that's most prevalent on our minds right now is likely the things that most people lost when they deconstructed. And you didn't lose better arguments. You actually got better arguments. Like, we do really good at better arguments. Organized social action, that takes better connecting. Oh man. I just rolled up on that one. Everybody get your roll on. We just rolled up on that one. No, like, organized social action requires better connection. Like, and this is why, like, I'd encourage anybody, like, if you're really passionate about a cause but you can't find a way to support that cause, right? And you're like, I just keep trying, like, you have a connection problem. Sometimes people think they have an idea problem, or they think they have a reach problem. And it's like, no, you have a connection problem. You're not connected with enough people who agree with you on this thing, which means and like, this is, I don't know why I'm here, but we're going to talk about it a little bit, which is why you actually have to learn how to do the hard work of earning agreement. Mm. You gotta learn how to do the hard work of earning agreement. This is one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about, really people learning how to connect better, because most of us are so judgmental of the world that we're in and so judgmental of others that we actually don't learn from each other, because we're telling other people how they should be experiencing life, what they should be feeling, what they should be thinking, how they should feel about other things. And to me, oh, I think this is the perfect word to use. That's very unattractive. And I'm not talking about unattractive as in it's ugly or stuff like that. It's unattractive as in the sense that it doesn't attract people. It doesn't attract people. Damn, this is good. Okay. All right. So it seems the two things that we got from this is that, hey, healthier community and practical life support. Like, these are things that post-religious spaces thank you, Dark Light. Post-religious spaces that we need more of. Like, I think I've aggravated people with this in our pursuit of building Bridge City, especially in the beginning, because I had to help people reorient to what Bridge City is not. And so for some, many people thought, yeah, I'm joining Bridge City to have better arguments. And it's like, mm-mm, that's not what this is. No, I'm joining Bridge City because I want people to debate with. Mm-mm, that's not what this is. Then what is it, Darante? It's community. Do you move into a neighborhood to debate your neighbors? No. You move into a community to do life with other people. Life. And it's in the doing life with other people that we're able to create the practical life support. It's the doing life with other people that we're able to create a healthier community. I think y'all may remember in the very beginning, like, I was at one point where I didn't want to talk to nobody, because I saw very early that people were developing parasocial relationships and that people were still kind of infatuated with this fan culture. And just as somebody who comes out of the mega church, like, fan culture is not cool to me at all. Like, we didn't even do it in church. And so when I see that fan culture, I'm like, oh no, that's scary. From a sociological perspective, for me, it's scary, because then I know, oh, we're not actually building people. We're not building people. So I stressed over and over again, like in the first year and a half while building Bridge City, like, hey, if you're joining Bridge City, you're not joining to talk to me. You're joining to build community with other members of the community, because it's not a fan club. And I'm so glad that we made that pivot, because that's like when we have people joining now, that's one of the things that people say, I joined it and I just kind of lurked for a while. And one of the things I was concerned of is, like, I didn't know if this was just going to be a Darante fan club. And it's just like, no. And people who treat it that way won't get the best experience, because I'm not a celebrity. I'm a parent. I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur, which means I'm pretty much busy all the damn time. Like that's and unapologetically so. Like, a part of my deconstruction was realizing, hey, bro, you've been wasting a lot of time doing things that do not serve you, doing things that do not move your life forward, and doing things that do not help you leave a legacy for the children that you brought into this world. And so, like, honestly, if y'all spent time with me day to day, y'all be like, this dude is boring, because I'm always working. I'm always working. But what I am hoping to get out of that work is healthier community that can actually help with practical life support. For example, one of the things that Bridge City just did, and we did this passively just by the community supporting me in the entrepreneurship of impact, an entrepreneur of impact competition. I've been saying that wrong. Just by the community supporting me, we were able to raise nearly $5,000 in funds for a nonprofit that deals with food insecurities in schools. And that's a big win. That's a major win. But that's still a small part of what we're able to do as we continue to organize. All right. So that was poll number one. Thank you all for participating in that. Let's keep going on in our conversation. And just honestly, y'all, I know I've been talking for like 39 minutes straight, but all that was the introduction. Oh, that was the introduction. No, let me stop and hide the poll. Thank you all for participating. Dang, that just looks good. Was that 57%? 57% said healthier community, and 43% said practical life support. And like that's if you're wondering what Bridge City is, that's what Bridge City's focus is: healthier community and practical life support. Me and Bob talked about it a little bit last night, but you're going to hear more and more and more of it. All right. So back to the topic at hand. Christianity is dangerous. We all know that. Yes. And just to kind of remind people of why, from my perspective, it's not just dangerous because it's not true. I mean, untrue things are dangerous as well. I don't know, like there's a lot of things that my parents' generation did and their parents' generation did that we often thought were harmless back then, but the more we know, we're like, oh, that shit is kind of harmful. And I'm not even just talking about like getting beat with extension cords and stuff. I still have the bruises. I'm also talking about like little small superstitious things. Like my dad's side of the family was much more superstitious than my mom's family. I mean, they both superstitious for sure when it comes to religion, but my dad's side of the family had a lot of cultural superstitions. Like some of these you may have heard before, like of course, no umbrellas open in the house, don't break a mirror, which I think both of my families had that one. That's 7 years bad luck. Don't walk under a ladder. Um, and like don't split the pole. I don't know if y'all, and that one was not intuitive to me as a child. I'm like, how am I splitting the pole? I don't understand. The pole is still standing there. I didn't split anything, but it was just like if you two people and you walking and one person walk on this side of the pole, another person walk on that side of the pole, you split the pole. And I'm like, no, you didn't split the pole, you split the people. I don't know, like, but anyway, you don't split the pole and you don't step on the cracks or you break your mama's back, you know? And those times in childhood are fleeting, and so they don't always get the attention they deserve. And we're just now getting into a place as a species where we're taking neurological science and cognitive science seriously, or more seriously than we have before. We're starting to explore ideas like plasticity. And I'm not going to get too deep into that because it's definitely not my realm. It's just something that I'm fascinated by. But the more we're learning, we can see like, oh, damn, you're putting immense pressure on a child's head to teach them that if you accidentally step on a crack, you might break your mama's back. Now, we know that the odds of this happening are not very high, but could you imagine stepping on a crack as like a 7-year-old and then finding out like that same day that your mom got hit by a bus and her back broke? Like that child would need therapy after that. And if, and I think I think that's sometimes we don't think about those possibilities. Okay, but so now we know again that's a very rare scenario. It could happen, probably won't, but it could happen. But even if that scenario doesn't happen, I just use that so we know that, oh snap, if it did happen, that's what that person is thinking about. Well, the human mind doesn't always have to wait for something to happen for it to think about it. You know what I'm saying? So then the moment that becomes a thing, like there might be some days that 7-year-old is thinking, I really want to step on this crack right now and break that heifer's back. Like you're just creating all types of cognitive consequences that I'm not saying necessarily have any long lasting impact, but I am saying it creates a lot of cognitive pressure on a child's mind. And that's just with silly superstitions like don't split in the pole. Like, I mean, can you imagine opening an umbrella in the house and then now the family's blaming you for its poverty? Like, see, we broke because of you, type of thing. But then religion does that. Ugh, because now it's not like step on a crack, break your mama's back. It's look at booty crack, go to hell forever. And it's like, whoa, what happened? And so what religion does, what Christianity does in this way, and for those of you who wonder, like, why do you speak so much about Christianity? because I spent nearly 2 decades in Christianity. I see the difference between me and a lot of others. I'm not gonna speak on something that I don't have any experience in. Even if I think that I know enough, like that's how ignorant works. That's how ignorance works. Ignorance always thinks it knows enough because it doesn't know what it doesn't know. That's so good. That's good stuff. All right. So Christianity, it does teach people to distrust themselves. It teaches people to fear their own thoughts, to outsource their moral reasoning, to submit to harmful authority, which was that was always an issue for me in in Christianity. It also it's very weird to me when Christians don't realize. Okay, it's weird to me when Christians don't claim Christian nationalism. It's weird. I appreciate their progressive stance. I do. I appreciate the Christians who are not Christian, who don't claim Christian nationalism. I just don't see how you can actually be a Christian and not claim Christian nationalism, because Christianity is imperialism. It absolutely is imperialism. Christianity absolutely is one king forever and ever. And anybody who does not worship that king gets annihilated or tormented forever. Just depends on which side of that fence you're on. Christian nationalism is the natural consequence of Christianity. I knew that when I was a Christian. I know. I remember wrestling with that during the election of, I think it was 2004, because I think that was the first year that I could vote. And so I remember wrestling with that because, of course, I went to a church at the time that was really into the political stuff, and they would definitely tell us you got to vote your conscience, you got to vote your faith, you know. And I was really wrestling with, like, wait a minute, democracy seems to be irreconcilable with Christianity. Hmm. So the Christians who don't claim Christian nationalism, I'm like, I'm sure you mean well, but I'm a little worried about you. I'm, I'm a little worried. What do you think every knee will bow, every tongue will confess means? I guess it's the same sword, you know. But okay, so Christianity it's not merely a set of private beliefs. It's often a full operating system for identity, family, politics, morality, sex, money, authority, and belonging. I've often said I challenge religious beliefs because religious beliefs, at least as they are practiced in the West, because I live here, and I don't want to speak for areas that I don't have proximity to. But at least from over here, religious belief is not a personal belief. Belief that pineapple doesn't belong on pizza is a personal belief. You may not like when other people put pineapple on their pizza, but you're not trying to change the laws about pineapple on pizza. You're not going into any pizza shops flipping over the tables because there's pineapples on the pizza. So that's a personal belief. A personal belief is a belief about you, your choices, your behavior, your likes, your preferences, your priorities. That is a personal belief. I have a lot of personal beliefs. Religious beliefs, at least as far as I've seen, are not personal beliefs. They are not just beliefs they're not just thoughts about what you believe about yourself. They're what you believe about the world. They're what you believe about people who disagree with your worldview. They're what you believe about people who don't follow your worldview. That is not a personal belief. That's programming. And that's a total different thing. It's a total different thing. A personal belief is chocolate is better than vanilla. That's a personal belief. Okay? You eat much chocolate ice cream as you want to, player. That's your personal belief. It doesn't impact anybody except for the other people who want chocolate at the same time you do, if there's not enough chocolate. Oh man. Oh, for pineapples on pizza. And so when Christianity is harmful, it's not just bad ideas, it's social machinery, you know. I think that's the aftermath that the United States is wrestling with. Because, like, while, yeah, no, I agree, the United States was not established as a Christian nation, wasn't founded as a Christian nation. No, I 100% agree there. But there is some nuance here that we have quite a bit of laws that have been influenced by theology here. And I'm not saying that to brag. I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible that we have so many laws on our books, state laws, local laws, and federal laws that exist for no other reason than legislating morality to fit within the container of one isolated worldview. You know, and so as a country, the US is having to wrestle with just how far did we let this bullshit go? Because, like, right now, over almost every election cycle since I've been able to vote, the conversation has been about things that shouldn't even be on the table. No, like, why are we talking about this? Why is this a government discussion? Like, that's how bad it's gotten. Like, this isn't new. This isn't new. They've been playing these games the whole time. You know, I was playing the games with them in 2004. 2006, I was ready to vote for Alan Keyes. No, I mean, I couldn't. It was for a Senate runoff race for Chicago, I think. But Alan Keyes was running against Senator Barack Obama at the time. And he was a Christian and he was against abortion. And I was like, that's right, man. That's right. And I'm like, whoa, this actually isn't really a legal issue. This is a personal issue. This isn't something that we should be trying to get public consensus on. Public consensus doesn't even belong in this conversation. You know, like, oh my goodness. But that's how bad it's gotten in this country, that we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok to literally be arguing over other people's humanity, because we've allowed so much of what we called personal or private belief to become a part of the social machinery. You know, it's really easy for a local group of Christians to decide that they don't like something and then go and make it illegal for everybody else. That's wild. I'm like, no, personal beliefs shouldn't become laws. I'm looking at you, cannabis laws. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You know, and that's and okay. And I'm just gonna say this from my whole heart. This is why I don't take most people having political conversations, uh, like, I don't take them seriously. We say, "Oh no, I love black folk. I love black folk. I want to do everything I can for black folk. Let's fight harder for black folk." Okay, one of the things you can do right now is aggravate the hell out of these politicians about these cannabis laws. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem. No, it's a real problem. Number one, these laws were passed before we had the right to vote, so we don't even get to. We're being governed by laws that we didn't even get to approve. And then number two, these laws are being laxed in places where we traditionally do not live, while being heavily more enforced in places where we do. No, that's a problem. And it ain't just, oh, you might go to jail. This is economic warfare. No, that this country is okay. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Christianity is harmful. I'm not supposed to be spending the whole time on that. But the big point is, Christianity is dangerous not simply because people believe strange things. I believe strange things, man. People believe strange things all the time. It becomes dangerous when those beliefs organize power, family systems, politics, shame, money, education, identity, and belonging. But the point is, I know I got to come to Canada. I got to come to Canada. The point is that naming harm is not the same as reducing harm. Exposing harm matters. Naming harm matters. Telling the truth, it matters. But naming harm is not the same as reducing harm. Calling out harm says this is dangerous. Reducing harm asks what systems exist for the people impacted, for the people affected. All right. Calling out harm, this is bad. This is dangerous. This is hurting people. But again, if you see me drowning and the only thing you can do is stand on the beach and yell, you're drowning, that's not helpful. I'm the one being hurt by it. So it says what support systems exist for the people affected. And that's one of the things that I'm looking at is how are people supported. And because I have this ministerial background, I know, and this is it's going to be hard to say, but I have to say, I know people can sometimes think they're being supported when they're not. Because I mean, that's how cults work. That's how parasocial relationships work. And I'm not saying that people are doing it purposefully. I'm saying it happens. Okay. Because just like I was caught up in my like little trauma porn when I was going through my stuff, it was real easy for me to think that, oh, this is making me better. Until I allow myself to pull back and say, hey, Darante, are you going down the same type of superstitious rabbit hole that you would have been going down when you still believed in, foolish stuff? And I'm like, no, what do you mean? Well, you say this is making you better. How? No, how? How is this making you better? So there has to be some type of metric. So calling out harm is look at what Christianity did. But increasing well-being is asking the question, what do people need once they leave? And that's a complicated question because sometimes I hear people say things like, well, I don't need community. Okay. Well, guess what? Right now, I don't need groceries, but that doesn't mean I don't help other people who do. Huh. Well, I don't think about it because I don't need it. So you only do things for others that you need for yourself. Y'all ain't ready for me. No. Calling out harm is like, hey, these beliefs are irrational. But increasing well-being asks, how do people rebuild identity, community, ethics, rituals, family relationships, and meanings? And it's not necessarily trying to give people a blueprint or a roadmap or something to replace the Bible. It's giving people space to do it themselves. It's giving people space to work it out. And the way we work those things out is we reclaim the one thing that most of us wanted out of church, that most of us wanted out of religion, that didn't get, and that was a safe space to explore honest questions. Oh my goodness. I hope this is helping. I hope this is helpful. All right, so I got another poll for y'all. I love the fact that the chat is going on today. I'm definitely going to have to come back and read through all of these. All right, so our second poll of the day. I'm going to start. I'm going to show. It's already up where I need it to be. And for those of you just getting in, if you don't know how to use the poll, it is very easy. You answer by typing the number that correlates with the answer that you'd give. And so this one is, when you engage atheist or deconstruction content, what are you usually looking for? And again, here, there are no right or wrong answers here. Like I'm not going to pick at you for your answer. Number one, I can't read that fast through the chat, so I don't know who's answering to what. so I might not even see what you put. But this is a social experiment, if you will, where we're just going to see what our answers look like in real time. The last question gave me a lot of valuable insight, so I want to see how this one does. Man, I like this. All right, we're getting some answers in here. Yeah. All right, let's get them in. Let's get these answers in. There's some more. And I think, again, I'm going to have to switch to my other studio to actually see these answers coming in real time. All right, we got a nice little spread. We have a nice little spread. 25% at help naming religious harm. Oh, that just dropped a little bit. 20% is emotional validation. 50% is community with others. Yeah, man, that's beautiful. And again, like that, the part about this one, just like the last one, which I didn't expect. Like I expected some people to be looking for arguments against belief. I expected some people to be looking for that. And maybe this is a little bit of selection bias because y'all are audiences of this channel. And so because you're audiences of this channel, you probably already know that I feel like better arguments aren't enough. And maybe that's what attracted you to keep coming back to the channel. So maybe there is a little bit of selection bias, but I tell you what, I'm here for it. But no, like I love this. I love this. We got right now what seems to be in the lead is community with others. Community with others. And I love it. Jude is absolutely right. They're all valid reasons, you know. Help naming religious harm is running in at number 2. is coming in at number 2. Emotional validation is rolling in at number 3. Which I think emotional validation is probably where it starts for some people, or maybe people don't even know they're looking for emotional validation, but they get it the first few times. And it's like, oh, I'm not the only person who feels this way. But helping name the religious harm, which is definitely something that I try to focus on in my work, is helping people get language for things that they're trying to describe. I shared the story last night while talking with Bob that me going through college gave me a lot of language to describe experiences and phenomena that I'd had that really helped shape my deconstruction. And one of them was in drama class, and it was just suspension of disbelief. Because then I realized, like, oh, I think I suspend my disbelief every Sunday. I think I suspend my disbelief every time I go to a church leadership conference. I think I've been suspending my disbelief for a very long time as it pertains to my religion so that I can enjoy the experience. And I was like, ooh, because I got introduced to suspension of disbelief and cognitive dissonance around the same time. And these answers are still pouring in. Like, it looks like we now have a tie between naming religious harm and community with others. And the thing is, like, that is, oh, like there's so much tension in that, right? Because you don't just stop at naming religious harm. Once you start naming religious harm, you're looking for all the harm. You know, at least I am. I'm looking for all the harm. But that can conflict with building community with others. Not saying that it does, not saying that it has to. I'm saying that it can, and most times it does. It conflicts with the building community with others. Because then, we are looking for not just people who are harmless, we're looking for people who are blameless. And then that becomes a problem. Because people is people. People are people. And one thing people gonna do is people gonna people. People are going to people. And so a major thing that is necessary is learning how to connect better, you know. And it, you know, a really good question to ask in this is, what do we owe each other? And to kind of, and to temper that with, what do we not owe each other? And that's a hard place to sit in. My baby sister, if she walks through, like if she's out at public, you know, out in public, and she, you know, is getting ready to walk through a door, and somebody walks through the door before her, and they don't hold it open for her, she will have a fit. She will have a fit. She'll be so offended, you know. Or if she opens the door for somebody, and they don't say thank you. Oh my goodness, she'll I you're welcome. You know, like and she noticed like I don't do any of that. Like I and she's like, well, why you ain't mad? I'm like, they don't owe me that. I could have chosen not to open the door. I opened the door. If they say thank you, that's on them. Their thank you doesn't make my day better. It doesn't change anything about my life. I don't believe in magical words, you know? And honestly, if they said thank you, it's just extending the interaction at this moment. And as a person who's a little neurospicy and a tad bit antisocial, I don't want to extend the interaction. So I'm actually grateful when I open the door for somebody and they don't say a damn thing. I'd be relieved. I'd be so relieved. Please don't force me into an awkward conversation. Cause then I'm gonna be smiling the whole time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, like no, just you know. But I get that way too. Like sometimes I can snap at people. Like if they say, "Oh, I was gonna watch this, but then you cussed," and I'm like, if you thought that was gonna get a positive reaction from me, like I don't believe in magical words. My children were watching this. Okay, I don't believe in magical words. I'm sorry. What can I tell you? You know, which I do, like in all fairness, on Sundays, I do temper it a little bit. I tame it a little bit. But I don't like that. I don't necessarily like that because I'm just like, no, that's just as superstitious as religious bullshit. You know, like, no. Someone said, and this was a while back, like, oh yeah, when you cuss, it just robs you of credibility. You obviously don't know how credibility works. And ultimately, that's the problem. That's what Christianity does to people. It makes you think that there are these shortcuts to know whether something is valid or credible other than doing the hard work. And there isn't. There isn't. All right, I'm gonna take my poll down. Thank you all so much for participating in round 2 of our polls. And I'm gonna hide those. All right. So let me get back over here. All right. Thank you so much for answering those questions. All right. So I've mentioned the phrase trauma porn, and I want to make sure I'm careful there because I'm not talking about people who are just honestly sharing what happened to them. People need to tell their stories. People need language for what harmed them. People need witnesses. But what I am talking about is when we get to the place where we're constantly searching for stuff that triggers us, you know, because at that moment, like you're programming yourself, you know, and like, you know, like I've heard people say so like, I just don't know why I'm so angry all the time. And I'm like, well, you spend all day looking for MAGA people. Like, how would you, what kind of day are you expecting you supposed to have after that? Like what mental state are you expecting to be in if that's what you are voluntarily exposing yourself to on a consistent basis? You know, so that's the type of stuff that a therapist is going to want to sit down and talk to you about. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? So, what I'm talking about is when the algorithm starts teaching us to keep circling the wound because the wound performs well. At some point, the pain becomes the product. And so instead of actually fixing something, I'm just playing with my wounds. Just reminding myself that I got a right to be angry. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't need any more reminders that I have a right to be angry. I already know. At some point, and this is for me, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, at some point for me, it became disingenuous. It's like you're acting shocked every time. But the whole reason you were mad in the first place is because this happens. And this is me talking to myself. At this moment, you have no logical reason to believe that it's going to stop happening. So why would you continue to be shocked every time it happens? You're tying yourself into a trauma loop. And within that loop, the most unfortunate part is within that loop, the only thing you have to offer are your tears. And your tears are not going to move the needle. Your anger is not going to change anything. You know? So for me, this is how I was talking to myself. You've got to get out of that loop. You've got to get out of that loop so that you can actually start doing things that can help you move the needle. Okay. At some point, the pain becomes the product, the outrage becomes the rhythm, and the villain becomes the organizing center. And without realizing it, we can build entire spaces that are still emotionally dependent on that religion that they claim to have left. And that's one thing I don't want to be stuck on Christianity for the rest of my life. Ooh, man. Some atheist spaces are still Christianity centered, just negatively. Like I said, I went to a few events last year, and like I'm a social butterfly. I'm always going to find a way to enjoy myself. But there was so many moments for me that was just like, this ain't it. This ain't it. You know, like I remember talking poolside with some people at one, and the conversation got stuck on how many men David had to circumcise. And I just remember like, oh, and just like I dismissed myself because like this is not what I want to do. I don't know, but as a grown ass man, this is not something that I want to sit here and talk about right now. Like, yee. But so we at that moment, I'm like, no, we're still Christianity centered. It's just negatively. So they no longer worship Christianity, but they still organize around it. And at that moment, you still need the sermon, you still need the enemy, you still need the weekly outrage, you still need the devil figure, you still need the purity lines, you still need heresy trials, and you still need excommunication, which all of these behaviors are behaviors that I've kind of seen. It made me unpopular very quick because like I don't do rumor mills and stuff like that. And so when someone calls me and says, hey, I just want to let you know that such and such had somebody on their channel and we're not cool with them now. And so we're doing, and I'm like, whoa, I feel like we just went back to like 8th grade, and I'm not gonna do that with you. You know, like number because like I'd be like, y'all don't know each other. Stop acting like you know people that you don't know. Stop letting the internet confuse you. Okay? That's the same thing I had to teach myself with T.I. and Tiny. I told y'all I didn't like Tiny. I was like, T.I. should have not married that woman. I don't know why he married that woman. And I had all these type of strong opinions. And I had to sit down with myself and say, dude, you don't know either of them. Like at all. Not even a little bit. Bruh, they don't know your name. You don't know their address. You cannot get on their property, and yet you've allowed yourself to attach super strong opinions about who they are as people and what choices they need to make in their lives. That's wild. But I noticed that so many people on social media, especially in this YouTube space, you think because you see somebody on YouTube that you know them. You think because you've seen somebody in an online space that you know them. You don't know these people. It's so weird. Building relationship requires investment. It requires work. Y'all know I've said it so many times in my lives because people are like, oh, Darante, you're my hero. You don't know me like that. I could be a fucking coward for all you know. Darante, you're the bravest person I know. You don't know me. I am pretty brave though. I murked on the cops. I'm that type of dude. Like I feared for my life pulled off. You might still be able to find the clip. But no, like no, you don't know anybody until you know someone. And I mean that always. So when people bring me bad news about somebody, in most cases, it just goes right over my head because I'm like, here's a few things that I do know. I don't know you. And I don't know this other person. So you don't have enough information to be giving me. And I have no interest in this type of information. But I didn't notice that in this community, or in this space rather, a lot of that happens. But that happens because It's the same reason. You remember when I said that megachurch pastors are narcissists? But let me explain. And it wasn't that, oh no, they just all have narcissistic personality disorder. It's just no, culture creates consequences. Now, let me say it different. Culture is consequential. Okay, culture is consequential. Right. So if I'm looking at the culture, in most cases I can tell you a little bit about the behavior. You know, and so in the same way, in the context of Christianity, if you're worshiping a narcissist, you know, then you're going to want your leaders to kind of emulate that narcissism. Then the same way, like if you're still building your whole game plan on the other end of that spectrum, it's the same thing. It's like, so I'm trying to be a better God than God. And look at my, my anti-God is better than your not anti-God. And it's just like, it's just narcissism versus narcissism. It's who can out narcissist each other. Okay. And so because the same culture is still going to produce the same types of behaviors without the benefit of the social machinery. So some people leave Christianity, but they don't leave the emotional architecture of Christianity. They just change the vocabulary. That's all. And so, which brings me into this next territory, which y'all know I've been warning y'all about stuff like this for the longest because I want people to seriously stop ruining their relationships. Like, no, just stop it. If you have relationships with believers and belief is not a subject, don't make it one. Not unless it's necessary. And so with Christianity equals bad. All right, yeah, we can go there. But that doesn't mean all Christians, some Christians are absolutely horrible, but it doesn't mean that all Christians are bad, nor should he equate to a type of social permission slip to mistreat Christians, and this has been alarming for me to witness. I remember sitting on a podcast one time and the conversation shifted towards people saying, and this is when everybody was mad at Elon Musk. And people were like, which I'm sure everybody still is mad. But people were like, yeah, we're going to see anybody who has a Tesla, we're going to go key their car. And I was like, what? Yeah, because they're supporting, Elon Musk. I don't know, how do you know that? I don't know, how do you make that jump? How do you know it's their car? How do you know they're not borrowing a friend's car? How do you know it's not a rental? Like I've been buying cars for a while in my life. I've not once went and bought a car and said, I want to buy this to support Henry Ford. Not once. But here you are about to give yourself a social permission slip to go destroy somebody else's property that may or may not be theirs on information that you don't even really have access to. That was mind-blowing, scary to me. So one of the laziest moves we can make is to correctly identify a harmful system and then flatten every person inside that system into a cartoon. That's just not how, again, people are people and we are a variable species. Not every Christian is a fascist. I know that's hard to understand. It is, because every Christian likely, this is going to sound so weird, but every Christian should be a fascist if they're being true to their beliefs. Not every Christian is an abuser. Not every Christian is stupid. There are some smart ones out there, but the same way, not every atheist is smart. Not every Christian is malicious, and not every Christian is safe. Some Christians are dangerous. Some Christians are deeply harmful. Some Christians are actively trying to take rights away from people. Some Christian institutions absolutely deserve aggressive public opposition. But if our framework becomes Christian equals bad person, we're no longer doing analysis at that moment. We're doing tribalism with atheist vocabulary. And that matters because many people leaving religion are still married to Christians, parented by Christians, parenting Christian children, working for Christians, grieving Christian loved ones, or trying to maintain some kind of relationship with people who are still inside that system. And my, you know, of course, my worldview has been shaped by my lived experience. But my goal in every situation is to preserve relationships where relationships can be preserved, where harm has not actually been caused in that relationship. There's a difference between someone being attached to a harmful belief system and someone themselves being harmful. There are plenty of Christians, there are plenty of people who identify as Christian and have no functional relationship with their religion. You know, there are plenty of people who identify as Christian and barely go to church. You know, not all Christians vote. Yeah, that's the nuance we have to wrestle with in the world. Not all Christians mean, not everybody who identifies as a Christian means that, yes, I've accepted all of the theological claims of Christianity. You meet majority of the Christians from my community, most of them don't know what the claims of Christianity are. They think like this is real. Like it's sad, it's scary, but this is real. Like this is the nuance that you have to sit with. There are many people who call themselves Christians and don't believe in Jesus. And so when they say they're a Christian, they're just saying, I believe that there might be a God. But that's how little they actually think about these issues. And so again, to take somebody like that and begin to treat them negative just because they have the Christian label, or just because you saw a new debate pick and you want to go pick at, you know, what you think they believe, it's just not good strategy. So I think the real question, or at least the question that I'm challenged with, is what are people leaving religion supposed to do? And again, yes, some people leave religion and don't need anything. Yes. Some people can eat spaghetti and don't need to take antacid, you know, a Pepsid or whatever the rest of that stuff is. Yes. That's how preferences work. But it's absolutely dishonest to be like, well, because I don't need it, somebody else doesn't need it. That's weird. That's fascism. And I'm not gonna lie, I do see a lot of fascist tendencies in the atheist space. Like there's this, if you hate AI, everybody's supposed to hate AI because you do. Like, no, how do you even jump from I've chosen not to do something, everybody else should do the same thing. You know, you want to see people get mad, talk about community, talk about the prayer. Well, I just don't need community. Yes, I don't need a Lamborghini, but I'll take one. Hello. Actually, I'm not really into sports cars. I don't even know if a Lamborghini is a sports car. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody tell me what a muscle car is. Me and my son was having that question one day, like, what makes a car a muscle car? And you can tell that neither one of us cared really about it because neither one of us looked it up. Yeah. All right. So the problem is not that atheist content calls out Christianity. No, I'm going to keep doing that. We're all going to keep doing that. The problem is that calling out Christianity is often where the ecosystem stops. And so it's just like people think, you know, they're delivered or they're better because they're in a room where people are naming the harm. But I'm like, naming the harm gives you language, not life. Bruh, I'm too good with it. Those were bars. Can I say that? Can I run that back? Naming the harm gives you language, not life. All right, so it's what do people do after they stop believing? You know, some people still want somewhere to go on Sundays. Some people still want places to rebuild trust with others. Some people want new language for how to grieve. Some people need help with telling their spouses. Some people need help with processing anger without becoming cruel. Some people need help to build ritual without relying on superstition. Who helps them find community without conformity? Who helps them think critically without being cynical? Who helps them belong without surrendering themselves? And I think perhaps the most important, who helps them remember what it's like to be human again? Because a lot of people right now in the atheist space, just from my humble observation, are losing touch with their own humanity because they're retreating into more and more tightly wound echo chambers of what I like to call pseudo activism, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Pseudo activism is anything that fails to answer the question, how is this helping? If we can't answer the question, how is this helping? Then it's pseudo activism. What is it activating? But we get so caught in our little tight wound circles that we don't have place to actually do life, and that's where the building happens at. The building, we can only build better when we learn how to connect better. But that takes real work. It doesn't happen off of vibes. It doesn't happen, because everybody agrees with you. If you need everybody to agree with you for you to participate in community, you're the problem. Oh, I got to run that back. If you need everybody to agree with you for you to participate in community, you are the problem. You are likely the reason you don't have community because you're not looking for community. You're looking for control. Whew, I hope that's helping somebody. And that's one thing that we do got to chill out on. Like, stop trying to control other people, please. Please. It's not attractive. Well, they shouldn't have said this, but they did. They're not you. How do you know what they should have done? How do you know so much about what somebody else should have done and none of your knowledge has helped you? That's where I like to take people at. I'm not trusting your information about anybody if your information don't help your life. No, how has your information transformed you? How has your information moved you forward? How is your information helping people? If your information can't help you, don't bring it to me. I don't want that helpless ass information. I like saying it like that. I like that. But no, deconstruction may get you out of the burning building, but people still has to. We need people to still help people heal and to breathe and to rebuild and to find somewhere else to live. And that's the question that community is answering: is how do we live and how do we do it together? How do we keep from going right back into a new echo chamber, going right back into another cave of isolation? How do we keep from going right back into a fortress of solitude? That's the one I was pulling for from Superman. How do we get people back in each other's faces? How do we get people back learning from each other in real time? I think some of us, spent too much time with your own ideas. You need to get in the mix of some other people's ideas because that's what it's like to be human. I think our biggest challenge in today's society, and it's not even because of AI, it's everything we've built before AI. I think the biggest challenge in today's society is determining what it will mean to be human for the next 50 years. And a part of being human has to be being humane. So this is why my work is not simply anti-religion. My work is about reducing harm and increasing well-being. Reducing harm means exposing harmful theology. Absolutely. It does mean challenging Christian nationalism. It means protecting vulnerable people. It means naming manipulation. resisting authoritarian systems, and creating safer spaces for people leaving religion. And I resist all form of authoritarian systems. People who can't accept the no are people who lose respect for me like very, very easily. No, you know, but increasing well-being means building community. It means teaching critical thinking. It means creating rituals, supporting families, developing emotional maturity, cultivating belonging, building systems of care, and helping people live better after belief. To me, that's the metric that I want to see. And it's from a strategic point too. Like what I want to see is I just want to see groups, large groups of people who are living life after religion, and it's been like a glow up for them. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Where people are like, man, with groups of other people, because any of us can just get online and say, I'm so much happier now. I'm so much freer now. Like we all say it in the interviews, but I don't want to hear it. I want to see it. Because right now I don't see it. And the world doesn't see it. But it's seeing it. That's what's going to encourage the shift. Seeing that not only seeing people leave is one thing. That's motivational. Okay, man, more people are leaving. But seeing people leave and get better, seeing people leave and do better, seeing people leave and help better, that's a tsunami just waiting to happen. You know what I'm saying? That's a whirlwind waiting to happen. Everybody on this side can't be mad all the damn time. Misery, yes, loves company, but not that damn much. Okay. So we got to see some of that. If all we do is reduce harm, we may become firefighters who never learn architecture. But if we want people to live beyond the fire, and I want people to live beyond the fire. If we want people to live beyond the fire, we have to build something. We have to build something that people can live in. And we have the unique opportunity, and this is what I love about Brick City. We have the unique opportunity to do it different, to do it better. Number one, because we don't have any religious qualms. Like we still got to fight a few cultural wars, but we don't have any religious qualms. The hardest thing about getting stuff done in church is you had to have a biblical reason. Had to have a scriptural reason. There had to be the Lord really wants us to do this. But as a post-religious community, we don't need the Lord as an excuse. Like, hey, why are y'all doing this? Because we thought it was a cool idea. That's how easy it is. So we have the opportunity to do something unique. We have the opportunity to create something that I'd almost say could not have existed until this moment in history, which means we have the ability to build something that could be the new standard for how human beings interact with each other, how human beings connect, how human beings build, and how human beings live together. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. This is how we love. And that's what community is. Community isn't just how we beat our chest. Community isn't just sitting in the room and everybody bragging about their point of view. That's a circle jerk. They both start with C, but they're different. Community is a place where people get to bring themselves to the forefront in service and support of others. It's not come see me shine. It's come help me serve. That's community. And that's what's missing. So yes, Christianity is dangerous. But now we have to ask the grown-up question. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to build communities where people can belong without pretending? Are we going to create spaces where people can grieve without being exploited? Are we going to help families navigate mixed belief relationships with wisdom? Are we going to teach our children how to think and not what to think? Are we going to organize against Christian nationalism while refusing to become hateful, sloppy, or reactionary people ourselves? Are we going to help build rituals, resources, support systems, friendships, and care networks that help people live beyond belief? Because if Christianity is dangerous, then we don't just need critics. We need builders. We need healers. We need organizers. We need educators. We need people who can tell the truth about harm without becoming addicted to the harm. We need people who can leave the burning building and then help design a better city. And that city is called Bridge City. Now let me stop. But listen, y'all, that is all I have for you today. I'll be trying not to keep y'all in here for 2 hours because I know for many of you, this is your lunch break. But I appreciate y'all for joining me today. I got to give you some music as I let you go. I don't know what it is. No, I think I'm gonna give you You Made It Here. You Made It Here is one of my favorites. It's actually one of our top streaming songs right now on Spotify. And so if you're interested in the work we're doing with Bridge City Music, the link is in the description as well. So go check that out. If you are a person who is looking for community and you're ready to be a part of community, you're ready to be a builder, you're ready to connect with other people, we have a lot of projects we're working on right now. We have a missions and events team. We have a music team, a production team. We have clubs, book clubs, conferences clubs. We have small groups like, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And then right now, I'm identifying 30 people within our community who are going to help us really take this thing to the next level. I'm looking for 30 people who are absolute builders. They got to be builders. They got to be ready to build relationship with other people, because right now our community has grown by over 130 people this year alone. And so we need people who can help us care for those people. And that's the project I'm calling BC30 right now. BC30. All right, that's all I have. I'm gonna give you all You Made It Here. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Let me get back over here in this chat. I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Go get you some lunch, get you something to eat, get you something to drink, something to smoke on. And until next time, y'all, keep rising.
Made it through hunger, you made it through pain, you made it through drought, and you made it through rain. You rose over conflict, you've conquered your shame. You've done it before and you'll do it again.
You made it through hunger, you made it through pain,
Yeah.
you made it through drought, and you made it through rain. You rose over conflict, you conquered your shame.
Yeah.
You've done it before and you
Do it again. There is nothing that can ever take your place, 'cause you made it. You are one of us, this global human race. You made it here.
There is nothing that can ever take your place.
'Cause you made it here. You are one of us, this global human race. You made it here.
You made it through darkness, you made up your mind.
Yeah.
You dealt with the hardest of times.
Oh.
You're finding your joy now and learning to shine.
Oh.
Enjoying your voice and reclaiming your time.
Again.
You made it through darkness,
Yeah.
made up your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
You dealt with the hardest of times.
You're finding
Finding your joy,
your joy now.
learning to shine.
Enjoy.
Enjoying your voice and reclaiming your time.
There is nothing that can ever take your place.
You made it here.
You are one of us, this global human race.
You made it
Yeah.
here.
There is nothing that can ever take your place.
You made it here.
You are one of us, this global human race.
You made it
Yeah. take your place. You are one of us, this global human race. Oh, there's nothing that could ever take your place. Is anybody glad that you made it?